good evening, all of my friends here. Hey, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
We look at you to be our new sheriff. And I'm in very close contact with him for a couple of weeks, and I meet a lot of community people also, and we have a wonderful feedback which is coming for this new our officer to be a sheriff. So my only submission to all my community people and my friends sitting here is to go all out and support so that we can have our new sheriff in seat very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. Truly humbled by your support. I don't usually read off of anything, but being the fact that it's Diwali, did I say that right?
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to give you a proper Diwali greeting, which was wishing you a Diwali that brings happiness, prosperity, and joy to you and all of your family. So happy Diwali. And I did a little research on Diwali before I came, and so it's light over dark, and wealth, and good over bad, good over evil. That's kind of what this campaign is really about as well. And so I'm very appreciative of all of you, and thanks for opening up the Mint again to all of us, Chris, and thank you so much, and you and your family. Very appreciative. What I want to talk to you about very, very quickly is who I am and why I'm the best choice for sheriff. And that's two things. One is what I've done that qualifies me for the position, and then two, what I'm going to do with Metro. Because we can't all live in the past about what has already been done. We have to talk about what the future looks like. And so I'm going to run very quickly through the past, because I will tell you that Sheriff Lombardo and I, as law enforcement leaders, were tested more than anybody else in this entire country over the last 6 years. And when I say that to you, I will give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Many of you might remember the Bundy incident up in Bunkerville, where we had BLM, Bureau of Land Management, go up there, and we had hundreds of rifles pointed at us. And Joe and I were assistant sheriffs at the time. We were able to go up there and save their bacon, quite frankly, and get out of there without a single shot being fired. To this day, I still don't know how we did it. I think they should probably make a movie out of it, because it's an amazing story. 30 years in law enforcement, and I don't think I was ever that afraid. I've been shot at and been in a lot of fights and a lot of different things, and I was more scared that day than I'd ever been, because I'd had, dozens and dozens of police officers and civilians up there, and we got lucky, but that's through leadership. The second part of that is two individuals that were radicalized up there came back down to Las Vegas, and then two of our officers were sitting at Cece's Pizza when they walked up and they murdered our two police officers while they were eating lunch. And then they went right next door to Walmart and killed a civilian before our hero police officers went in there and stopped them and killed them. I ran that event that day, and I know exactly how much it took for those officers to do it, and I'm extremely proud of the men and women of this police department. The third thing, as you move very quickly into it, I don't have to explain what 1 October was to anybody, but 58 people died that day. What everybody forgets is that 422 others were shot that day. 850 total people were injured. And it's 2 people that died subsequent to that from their injuries. And I don't think there's a police department that could have responded better to that incident than the men and women of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Joe was coming from the Summerlin area, and I was coming from the Henderson area. And I went directly to the command post, and I ran that event for probably the next 10 hours. And we thought we were under attack for a very long time. And the reason for that was that people were showing, there were 22,000 people on that field that day. When they started shooting down at the 22,000 people, they did everything they could to get as far away as they could. So for many hours, as people were showing up at a different hotel or casino, you might walk out of there and you and your significant other were there and you see somebody shot, so you call 911 and you say, hey, there's a person been shot at the Luxor, there's a person been shot at Tropicana, and the list goes on. And so we thought we were under attack for many, many hours that day. And as much of a tragedy as that is, the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department showed up like they always do and always have, and I'm extremely proud of them for that as well. Pretty quickly we move into COVID, folks. Today we've had 6 Metropolitan Police Department employees die. 5 police officers and 1 civilian. We've also had over 1,600 of our police officers get COVID. I want you to think about that. Your police department, 24/7, 365 operation. They came to work every single day, knowing that they're being exposed, knowing the danger that is out there. And not only that, but looking around the rest of the valley, most of the other businesses, all of government for the most part, with the exception of police, fire, and EMS, stayed at home. They worked from home. And I know many of your businesses were forced to close by government here, but our police officers had a duty and a responsibility to come out there every single day with the dangers that they face, not only from the bad guys, but now from that unseen enemy of COVID. Think about the leadership that it takes to get the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department to show up every single day for you with that unseen enemy attacking their friends and losing 5 of our friends. 6 employees now total. It's a big deal, and Joe and I were able to lead through that, and I'm extremely proud of their efforts as we move forward with that. The next thing that comes up after that is the let's see where we're at. COVID. Okay, then the summer of unrest, and as police officers, we have the responsibility to make sure that our citizens have the ability to exercise their First Amendment rights to protest. And that's a real thing. And we did that day in and day out. But on several days, it also devolved into rioting. And it's rioting based off of the actions of an idiot Minneapolis police officer who kneels on the neck of an African-American man for 9.5 minutes and kills him, Mr. George Floyd. And then as we move along throughout, all across this country, that sort of unrest bubbles to the surface. And when you look all around this country, you saw cities and police departments fail. Portland and Seattle and Chicago, Denver, San Francisco, you name it. We had the same challenges here. I took Joe down to 8th and Fremont, which was ground central at the beginning of the riots, and we stood out there with our men and women taking frozen water bottles and batteries and rocks. And then I had to order the use of gas for the first time since the Rodney King riots. And in today's world, that's no small feat. We have this whole world about defunding the police, and I want to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the reality of it is that there were people in those other cities that were taking those cities over. They were burning buildings down and burning police stations down. We lost 1 police car to rioting. That's the truth. We had a lot of graffiti, we had a lot of broken windows, but they didn't take the city over. And that's because your police department stood up to make sure that that didn't happen. Thank you. And that's a big difference by having an elected sheriff in charge of the police department. All of those other cities that I mentioned, they all have appointed police chiefs. And appointed police chiefs are appointed by mayors and councils and everybody else that thinks they know how to run the police department rather than the police chief. We're the only police department that's a joint city and county police department in this country with an elected sheriff over the head of it. It's part of the secret sauce of Metro, because you all elect the sheriff. If you don't like the job the sheriff is doing, the sheriff is out. But the mayor doesn't tell him that, the council doesn't tell him that, and the commission doesn't tell him that. The night that Shay Michaelanus got shot, in the ensuing days, I was standing from here to about that wall when Shay got shot. And I tell you that because as the day-to-day operational commander, as the undersheriff at Metro, I'd been out on the front lines, I'd been out to the protests, I'd been in the command post, I've been given direction and order. But we'd also been taking a lot of grief saying that we were targeting individuals, we were shooting rubber bullets, which by the way, Metro doesn't even have rubber bullets. So when you read those stories, and you had a bunch of auditors that were out there wearing their vests saying that, I'm a First Amendment auditor. That's not a sign of things to come. My sign fell down. So, all that being said, while we still have the duty, the responsibility, and the obligation to protect people who are going out to show their displeasure with what is happening in American policing today. And we did it as good as anybody could do it. There's no doubt in my mind. But we also didn't allow this city to become like so many of those other cities. There's nobody in this race that will even come close to stacking up a resume like that over the course of the last 6 years. Not only was, I didn't tell you a whole lot about me prior to that, I wanted to give you a very quick introduction as to who I am and what I've done. But also, I'm married. My wife is a deputy chief at Metro. She's getting ready to retire in just a few days. We have 5 children that we raise here in this community together. We love this community. It matters to us. And so, actually, I retired in December 28th. And I retired because the sheriff told me at the time he was going to run for a 3rd term as sheriff. In March, he came back to me and told me that he was going to run for governor and then he wanted me to run for sheriff. I'll be very honest with you, when I retired, I went and got a really good job. One job that paid me a lot more money than Metro did. I flew around on a private jet. I had all the West Coast operations. They bought me a BMW and I had exactly 0 stress. And I gave it all up to come back to run for sheriff and enter the combat sport of politics. And I do that because I love this place. I quit that job in June so that I could focus full-time on running to be your sheriff. So what is that? What you want to know, okay, what in the hell are you going to do about it now? And I'll tell you a couple of things. The first and most important thing that I think you need to know is that I know how to fight crime. Because every single person that I've talked to on this campaign trail says they want to be safe in their business, they want to be safe in their home, they want to be safe overall. They want their children to be able to grow up in a safe community. 5 of the 6 years while I was the undersheriff, we went down in every measurable crime category. Since I left, I like to joke with Joe and tell him, things have gone the other way. But Metro is still exceptional at fighting crime. I know how to lead, I know how to motivate, I know how to inspire the men and women of Metro. I've done it my entire career. When you lead, motivate, and inspire those individuals, they will move mountains for you. And I know the hearts of your police officers, and I know how much they want to get it right, and so we are going to be as effective at fighting crime as anybody in this country. Secondarily to that, the one thing that I can tell you is that no matter any candidate for sheriff that stands up and tells you that fighting crime is only involving police focused in on bad guys, they're just not worth it. Because I'm going to tell you something. The truth is, the only way that you really become an effective police department is that you have deep, meaningful relationships within your communities. Relationships with communities of color. Relationships with every aspect of this community. And we have a really great relationship all across the board. That started when I was the captain in West Las Vegas, the traditional African-American part of town. When I became the captain there, we led in every crime category that you did not want to lead in. Shootings, stabbings, rape, robbery, prostitution, gang involvement. We were off the charts and everything. 1 year later, we decreased every single one of those crimes to a negative for the first time in the history of Metro. I didn't do that because they gave me more police officers. I didn't do that because we were harder than the guys before me. I did that because I authentically engaged people within our community. And they started to come around and to realize that we can all collectively do something about crime. There's this misnomer out in the world that the black community doesn't like the police department or the Hispanic community doesn't like the police department. I'm here to tell you, the black community and the Hispanic community and every other community just wants good cops. They want good cops doing good things within their community. Make no mistake about it. Today, so when I say that to you, what I want you to understand is this. All those failed cities that I just mentioned to you, pull up their website, any one of them. They're all going to talk about being a community policing organization. I don't really know what that means, folks. Because if you're a community-oriented police department, why is your city burning? Why are you having the problems that you have? And by the way, as I stand before you today, I'm not telling you Metro has not had those problems. I'm not telling you that we have not been the responsible persons for some of those incidents, but we're a learning organization. And in 2010, we brought in the Department of Justice because we shot 25 people that year. Way too many. And by the way, the controversial shootings that we had was we shot unarmed African-American males. And we're going to really break down what the problem is that police departments all across this country are shooting unarmed African-American males. We had to do something about it, so we did. So our current officer-involved shooting number of this year is 8. We are on track to end, and all of them were armed individuals, by the way, And we're on track to be the lowest number of officer-involved shootings since we started recording officer-involved shootings. That's because we listen and we care. And the cornerstone of my community policing philosophy is going to be simply this: where is the humanity? Because if we start to look at this, you don't see me as a man and I see you as a woman, or an African American and a white. If we just recognize the humanity in one another before we do anything else, that's going to take us so far into the future that people are going to look and try to understand what is really happening in Las Vegas, because they've got those authentic community relationships with people that don't look like me, with everybody in this community. When we paint the broad brush of the Asian community, how many different groups of Asians are in the Asian advisory group? I don't know. A lot. But everybody says Asian, or everybody says African American, or everybody says Hispanic. There's different groups within all of those groups, and they all have unique needs, and they want to be talked to, and they want to be listened to, more importantly. And when we can listen, we can collectively come together and make a difference. That's what I believe in my heart. It's what I've done my entire career, and that's what I'm going to do with this police department. And you're going to be extremely proud of that as we continue to move forward. The third thing I want to do is I don't care what political persuasion that you come from. The fact is that when Afghanistan ended the way that it ended, we left Afghanistan, we had a change in the way that we have to approach Homeland Security. That's a fact, folks. I know this because I was the president of a group called Leadership in Counterterrorism. It's the Five Eyes countries. It's the United States, it's Canada, the whole of UK, so Scotland, Northern Ireland, and England, Australia, and New Zealand. And twice a year, all the top counterterrorism professionals in the world come together and we look at all of these types of events, including 1 October. And today who knows what ISIS-K is? ISIS-K is ISIS in the Khorasan province. Prior to that, it was ISIS in Syria. And there's still a number of people that would love to have a spectacular attack in the United States, and we haven't really dealt with that over the course of the last 7 or 8 years because we've been fighting over there. Today, our world has changed again. We have homegrown violent extremism, far left and far right, that get radicalized and move to action very quickly. We can't take our eyes off of that. But we also have to be prepared and change the way it is that we do Homeland Security. And one of the things that I'm going to do about that, I'm sorry to say, but the truth is that post 9/11, while communication between intelligence agencies and local police has improved, it's nowhere where it needs to be. We still have challenges between federal agencies telling local law enforcement things that they need to know. Let me give you an example of this. I like to use this example because it matters, right? Most of you have been here a number of years. There's a hotel down on the Strip called Planet Hollywood. What did it used to be called before Planet Hollywood? Aladdin. So you all know that. But if you're a young intelligence analyst working for a federal agency and you see raw intelligence come across your desk that says there might be something happening at the Planet or at the Aladdin, and you go over to your little list and you say, there's no Aladdin hotel here. You don't even know what to do with that. You just dismiss it. But if you've been here, and this is no fault of their own, we live here. We raise our families here. I've been here for 31 years. I know that the only people that know neighborhoods better than the police are the people that live in those neighborhoods. The only people that know communities better than the police are the people in those communities. And we have to make sure that we have meaningful connections with those folks so that they can tell us when something's not right. This goes for crime, it goes for terrorism. When we see individuals starting to go off the rails, if we have deep, meaningful relationships in all those communities, they're going to point those people out to us and we can do something about it. I'm going to take one of our officers and I'm going to sign him out to the New York JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. The reason is New York City actually has police officers stationed all over the world. And they're getting raw intelligence and taking it back and giving it to local law enforcement. But if you're not part of that group, it's days before you get the information. Having an officer embedded out there, they're going to get it in real time so that we can evaluate the attacks that are taking place all across this globe, try to understand what it means for Las Vegas so that when they do want to attack us again, it never happens in this community again. We can't let it, right? We all know the economic engine of this entire state is that Strip and that downtown. We can never let that happen again here, and that's how I'm going to work to refocus on that. There's three areas today that are really impactful on local law enforcement and communities as a whole. That's addiction, homelessness, and mental health. Now, I want you to think about this. Typically, when we get in an officer-involved shooting, one or all three of those things are involved with the individual that we shoot. Drugs, homelessness, or mental health issues. The Clark County Detention Center, for those of you that don't know, that is the jail that we run. Pre-COVID, we had up to 4,100 people in that jail. The Clark County Detention Center still today remains the largest mental health facility in the state of Nevada. The Clark County Detention Center is the largest addiction treatment center in the state of Nevada. And it also is the largest homeless shelter in the state of Nevada. And that's not acceptable to me. We have people in the city working on this. We have people in the county working on this. We have people in the state working on this. We have somewhere around $6.7 billion of ARPA funding coming out of COVID, and yet we're not talking about how do we fix one of those issues. You see, I don't believe that there's any humanity in the fact that we allow people to sleep out in the tunnels underneath the strip or out in the desert. I think we owe it to those individuals to get them treatment so that they're not having to be out there in those places. We know it takes repeated attempts to go out there and to get to somebody who's either got an addiction or a mental health problem who's homeless. But if we don't continue to make those attempts, how many of you visited Denver or Seattle or LA recently? Folks, there's homeless in all of those cities laying out on a sidewalk like this, and there's nothing that they will do about it. You cannot remove the accountability for this. So here's what I know. When the sheriff asks people to come to a meeting, they come. They never waver, they come. And so I intend to use my position as the sheriff to make sure that I bring all of those officials that are accountable to these issues to the table to start taking a bite out of each one of them. Because they seem today to want to take this wholesale approach, throw all kinds of money at something, and it never gets fixed. You start taking a little bit of a bite, before you know it, the whole apple's gone, and you've resolved an issue. This is what we've done on so many things when it comes to crime fighting, when it comes to making relationships, meaningful relationships in community. You have to start somewhere. When I was the captain at Bolton Area Command, I had the Nation of Islam. They refused to walk on the same block as me. So while we were out in a housing project, I snuck between the buildings and went and walked on the same street as them. And then pretty soon we started a relationship. And today it's one of the only police departments in the country that has a relationship between the police and the Nation of Islam. It works. I know how to appeal to it. I know how to get to your heart. And I see each other as human beings first. We got a long way to go because we can make a true difference. The last thing I want to talk to you about is actually two more things. When I retired in December, I was a little bit mad at Sheriff Lombardo. I'm going to be honest with you. Because honestly, it would have been easier for me as the undersheriff, not having retired and run for sheriff. But I'm actually glad I had the opportunity to retire and go into that private sector job. And I'll tell you what, A, it gave me a little different experience because now I see Metro from the outside as well. But B, I realized that after 30 years of working in law enforcement, I have a little bit of, you call it cumulative trauma, PTSD. You know, when I became a cop in 1990, if you went out to a critical incident and it started to affect you a little bit, you might got slapped around and said, "Knock it off, kid, get back in that car and let's go." Today, if you have a police officer go and pull a 3-year-old kid out of a swimming pool, try to resuscitate the kid and the kid dies, detectives come out, everybody comes out, we do what we have to do for the investigation. Guess what that police officer does about 2 hours later? They go get right back in a police car and they go right back to work. Think about how that affects you, even thinking about it as we sit here today. If there's a homicide out there on that street right now, and a man is laying there with 10 bullet holes in him, and we have detectives come out, we have homicide come out, we have crime scene people come out, patrol cops come out, you see something that you didn't want to see, you feel something you didn't want to feel, you hear something you didn't want to hear, you smell something you didn't want to smell. Right after they're done, you know what we expect them to do? Go get back in the car and go right back to work. And you know, I got to thinking about that. After 1 October, obviously, my wife and I both working at Metro, we turned to each other in November after that event, and neither one of us remembered the entire month of October. And it was because we were at work the entire time, had really high levels of stress, trying to solve something that we couldn't eventually solve. I realized that here I was, a 30-year professional, law enforcement, served as the undersheriff for 6 years, reached the top non-elected position at Metro. And while I thought I did a pretty good job with our employee assistance program, there's a lot more to do. And I started it off after 1 October. They came to me and said, hey, we want to do yoga and meditation. Well, I got to tell you, I didn't say no, but I thought, what am I doing? Am I losing my mind here by doing this? Then they came back pretty quickly thereafter and they wanted to do goat yoga. I didn't even know what that was. But at that point I said, let's do it. And so what I want to do is I want to go and I want to create something at Metro called the Wellness Bureau. And this Wellness Bureau is going to be designed to take care of the heart, mind, body, and soul of our police officers, because we haven't done as good of a job as we can do. I'll give you one more example of why I know this is going to work. I had a police officer as the undersheriff that had 63 complaints in 1 year. And I didn't know, this individual had been in several officer-involved shootings. He was a little guy, so everybody always thought it was the little guy syndrome that he had that was causing him to have this problem. His shootings were all justified, armed individuals. In the third shooting, he shot a guy at Sahara Boulder Highway, a board and nails in it. And so I brought him in because we were looking at terminating him. 63 complaints of interaction with the public. So anytime he would interact with you, if you didn't do what he told you to do right away, he took action. But what I realized when I brought him in was that he had the ability to tell me no. I can't force you to go to a doctor, right? So I just decided that he was going to be assigned to this doctor. I didn't tell anybody about it. His shift, when he would come in, he would have to go report to this trauma specialist that I hired. And eventually, over the course of the next couple of weeks, he started talking to her and still talks to her to this day. That following year, he did not have one single complaint because he had a cumulative trauma that was unresolved that we hadn't done anything about. I believe that I owe it to the men and women of this police department. I believe that as a community, we owe it to them to check on them constantly about that heart, mind, body, and soul. And that's what I'm going to do with creating this Wellness Bureau. The last thing I want to tell you about is, look, you also want a sheriff that can get things done. You know, as an example, I want to give you, we're building a new reality-based training center up the street. There up by our firing range. And what does that mean to you? It's basically we take every deadly force scenario that Metro confronts, we put it back into training, we train it so that we can have an alternative outcome to deadly force. But we've been doing it with no budget, no opportunity, because Metro can't own any buildings. They don't want to fund us so well. And so I went to the sheriff with this vision, and he said, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it done. I asked him if he would mind if I take lead on it. I raised the first $12 million for this facility. There's 2 buildings going up right now. They should be done here relatively quickly. We are going to have the first state-of-the-art training facility that Metro has ever had. Movable walls, changing the environment, turning the lights up and down, so that we can constantly train. But more importantly, we're going to train with police, fire, EMS, private security, which we've never done. So that when something like 1 October happens again, we don't struggle with where's the keys to the elevator so we can get up to the 50th floor. All these little things that you don't think about that we now know, the lessons learned from it, that we're going to be able to go back in this facility and go and do something. When the sheriff gets told no about something, you need somebody who's going to go out there and fight. You're going to need somebody who's going to go out there and stand up, not only for when our police officers are doing right, but when this community needs something. And that's who I am. And that's what I spent 30 years doing. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity, Rita and Mike and Harry, and thank you very much for even considering having me over here to talk to you all. I am extremely proud of this police department. I'm extremely proud of the relationships that we have. And I promise you that if you support me, without a doubt, I will work harder than anybody else that's ever been before me, and I will work very hard to make you proud of that support. So thank you very much. Oh, that's right, questions.
One important question. We know you're going to do, but we just want to ask in front of everybody. We have to have twice a year the Asian American group in the Sheriff's Advisory Council, like we've always done for the last 8-9 years. So we've done it here at the, where's Chris?
Chris is back.
And we've always, and you've attended most of them, I think. Just
Even the last one too.
And the last one too.
Listen, I would never, Rita, I would never walk away from that. I think it's
a partnership.
Yeah, it's not only is it partnership, but it's real accountability too, because you guys ask tough questions sometimes, and you know that's the reality is we need to actually stand before you and take those tough questions. And but not only that, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to take the model that we have here and build it out even further into the community, so that we have, you know, we have folks that show up. Because the one thing about this group is you show up every single time, without a doubt. And it's one of the greatest joys for me is to come to this, well, now it's the Mint all the time for the most part, but even prior to the Mint, you know, we had these different opportunities, and this is real meaningful relationships that are developed. But you also, there's not a single one of you that I've had interactions with over the past that was afraid to ever say, hey, you guys need to look at this, or let me call you tomorrow and we can talk a little bit more about that. It's always been a wonderful thing for us, and I think it's one of those things that makes Metro better every single day, and I'm grateful to it. Yeah, my word will definitely continue it.
Thank you. The video guy is doing this. It's going to be on YouTube.
Good.
Good. Every word you said is
You know, I'm a man of my word. I always have been, so I promise you that. I'm also happy if anybody else has another question or a couple questions.
Have you met everyone by name or who they are?
I think so.
Pretty much?
Yeah, I came early enough that I could sit down and
Maybe,
talk.
yes. Come on, guys, start with you, Dennis. Come on, Dennis, introduce.
You are.
Yeah, but I guess you want to introduce.
All right, I'm Dennis Rucker. I'm actually the Executive Vice President for the Asian American Group, and just want to tell, you know, we've known Kevin for many years, and we want to give our support 100% behind him because we believe in his views and we believe what he will do with Metro, and so we support them, we support you, and so we look forward to seeing you as sheriff.
Hi, I'm Rupee Chima. I've been in Vegas for 25 years now, originally from LA. I've been involved with Uncle Mike and Aunt Rita from Way days, from Bill Young days, to Gillespie, to Lombardo, and we're very honored to have you come today, and we're 100% behind you.
Any else gas stations?
Hi, my name is Emil Begju. I'm with GMT Care Medical Transport. I'm very happy to be here. And when you described about working every day and every night, 24/7, it's exactly what we do. We don't have not even one day off, so we're 365, 7 days a week. I understand exactly where you're coming from. We're here to support you, and more than happy to be here. Thank you.
Hello. Donna Miller, former regional director for AM. I don't even relationships are definitely very important to us, and also collaboration with other first responders agencies, especially having an EMS background. It's really important to collaborate and to work together because we respond together to calls. And the way you were talking about a new training center, that would be pretty amazing to indeed take advantage of it, not only for the LDMG, but also for all the first responders here in town. And that will make us be more cohesive and have a more united response to the person. So thank you for having the courage to go forward with this. I speak from my own perspective. It takes a lot of courage to take on that position, and we are definitely.
Hello everyone, my name is Graham. I'm co-founder and operator of Rupee Health Services. Kevin, I'm glad to have met you today. I can trust your leadership for this position that you're heading on, and you have my support. You have our support. I'm here as a representative for the African Chamber of Commerce and Tourism in partnership with the AAG, so you have our support.
We are together, like he said, but my name is Precious. I am also a representative of the African Chamber of Commerce, and we also have a medical spa where we do IV infusion and body and sculpting. But one thing that you did say that just resonated a little bit, or that had me thinking, was when you said that basically bad cops are good cops, or could be good cops, that are suffering from PTSD. So do you think with knowing that information, could future plans be implemented to where you could create a more open and safer space for those types of cops to feel comfortable like working through their trauma before they go out onto the streets? I'm so bad at public speaking, I get so nervous, but yeah. So that was just one thing that I would really love to discuss further.
I'll give you a quick answer. It's not as simple as just ordering people to go see it. You have union contracts and a number of other things, but let me be real clear about this. Is one thing that I've talked about at Metro for a very long time is that culture trumps policy every single time. I don't care what business that you were in. If you have a culture and your policy is put into place, people won't follow policy because they follow culture before they follow policy. So I'm going to break the culture of this stigma around mental health for police officers, and we're going to do this for sure.
Hello everyone, my name is Christine Chang. I'm the president of the Global Federation of Chinese Businesswomen. It's my honor and be pleasure to be here tonight. So we absolutely support you.
Hi Kevin. My name is Michelle Chen. I am a local CPA for small business owners. So we understand the local businesses and how they need support from, the great leadership from our local Metro Police Office. I'm also on the board for the Asian Chamber of Commerce, and I know that we work with Rita a lot in various events, and thanks, Mary, for the invitation here. We definitely support you. I think as, like you said, I really like the point where you mentioned that, right? Humanity, right? Because I was going to ask you, how would you, if we elect you as the sheriff, how would you support Asian community? But I think you answered it really well. So it's really no Asians or African American, like it's just, we're all the same. But I do have one question. There are some talks about, right, Asian crimes, or would you have any thought or response on that?
So a lot of what we're talking about when it comes to crimes against Asian in Las Vegas, we don't really see the numbers. In fact, I was at an event the other day that they said that we have one reported event here in Las Vegas. But what I don't like about that statistic is that's not the feeling in the community. That's not the way that people within the community feel about this, right? And so I know Nick has been over there for a long time. All of our captains that work alongside Spring Mountain and all of the different communities have a very high expectation from us as leaders that we develop those relationships and that we're accessible. But one of the things that I'd really like us to do at some point or another is to really get, I don't know if you've seen this kiosk that we put in up near Resorts World for Metro. I really want to get that thing finally done over in Chinatown. It's a location, highly identifiable as police. We've talked about it 100 different times. We just never really got to that place yet. But I'd really like to have that opportunity, and then to put some officers that speak the various languages in there as well. so that we can really start to change the narrative about the way, at least in Las Vegas, the way that the Asian community feels about that targeting by other individuals. And I mean, look, we've had a lot of auto burglaries, we've had a number of other types of crimes along the corridors there, and so, but what I would say to you is this, Michelle, at the same time, I don't have all the answers. And so that's where it's really important to listen to the community about what is the reality, and not just hide behind this statistic that, well, we've only got one reported incident, because we also know, right, in the Asian community, oftentimes they don't come forward to report a crime. We know that. There's no doubt about that. So we have to do better than we have been doing, and we will definitely work on that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Crosby. I'm a shareholder at Marquis, Aurbach, Coffing, which is a law firm in town, and we've had the privilege of representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and its officers for well over 25 years. I personally have been working on Metro cases since I was barred. I've worked with Kevin from day one. I can tell you from my personal experience, what Kevin told you today is exactly how he is. He's probably the most transparent person I've met. You listen to him on NPR. I have, obviously, sometimes I have more information than the nature of what I do for a living, and I listen to him on NPR, I listen to him on radio, interviews, and it's 100% genuine. That's not to say he doesn't yell at me sometimes when he was under sheriff, but I can tell you at the end of the day, Kevin and the executive staff, they do what is right, and that makes my job it makes it easier. I wouldn't say it makes it easy, but from someone who's worked with him, worked for him for over 17 years, who's been yelled at by him, who's been mentored by him, I can tell you he is one of the most genuine individuals I know. I consider him a friend, but I can't articulate how genuine of a person he is when it comes to the type of work I do. We have a lot of high stakes issues, important issues that have a lot of multifaceted issues that have nothing to do with my case, but everything to do with the community. Kevin his decisions were always right. Whether they were what I wanted to hear to win a case, so to speak, they were always right. And I can tell you that is my personal opinion of Kevin, for what it's worth.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
My name's Alan Shrimp with Southern Vegas Valley Contracting. Some of you might know me from Control Jensen. Rita, again, Michael, thank you for inviting me tonight. I've known this man for quite a while now, and as a business owner here in town, there's something a little different with me. I'm also a law enforcement officer out in front, and going through and growing throughout the community and things that we have to do, and having to call this man at all hours of the night for help from Las Vegas, and I've had to do that many a times. Not only just for the help, but also for the leadership. Kevin, I got this thing going on, or it might even be my personal life with my kids and his kids. But I've known him for a long time, and I've told him for a long time this is his spot, and this is where he needs to finish his career, is right here. Good luck, Kevin.
Hey Kevin, Chris, I know I've known you for years now, and I've seen you more now than ever before. So, but no, I kind of relate to your corporate job. I was in a corporate job, having a good life in California, and ended up here, started a crazy restaurant business. So thank you for coming back to serve our city, because I know that if you do one thing wrong, they'll point it out. So thank you and welcome for the thankless job you're gonna do. Okay. But no, you'll do great, and I support you entirely. Thank you.
Bistro, right?
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Adam Seeley. I'm the administrative executive lieutenant over at Spring Valley Area Command with the police department. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of community events with people in the room. And for me, it's important that we continue to do these community events, continue to do outreach on the Tropicana and the Spring Mountain corridors. And I feel very comfortable saying that we will continue to do that under Kevin's leadership. Thank you. This is my wife, Ashley. She's here with me.
Hey, good evening. Most of you know me. I'm the captain of Spring Valley Area Command. You guys are in Spring Valley if you didn't know that. I love working with this community. I love working with Rita and Harry and Mike, what Mike started here, and the legacy that he's created. and the partnerships that I built with a lot of you in this room and your different subsets and organizations. And what I can tell you as a bureau commander is we need a leader like Kevin. I've worked for Kevin or under Kevin for my entire 20-year career. A lot of what he told you about when he was a captain on the West Side and his successes and his struggles to get to those successes, he has shared and mentored with myself and other captains so that we can learn and we can build upon what he started in the West Side. And you know, to answer your question, that's a no-brainer that these relationships are gonna stay together and these meetings are gonna stay together. So I support him, the cops support him, and I want you guys to support him as well, because this is the type of leader that we need as we move forward into these next 4 to 6 years with the challenges that we're gonna have fighting crime and dealing with quality of life issues. Thank you.
Steve Lee, I'm in the mortgage lending career, but one thing I would say that I would say I'm proud of our Metro in Vegas, because you guys do an amazing job. And what you talked about, relationship, my business, it's all relationship based. Knowledge is there, but relationship is what keeps the business. And I see that's what you guys do. I just recently had my father passed away. And part of what they do is they have Metro come out, and the 2 officers that came, they were very, I mean, they made us feel like they're part of our family. They waited for, you know, the coroner, everyone to come. So you guys do have an amazing force, and I think it starts with leadership. You know, Lombardo was an amazing sheriff, and I didn't know anything about you until today, but I feel super solid that, you know, you're going to be the perfect placement for Lombardo. So just want to pass that on, that, you know, I think we have the best Metro Police Department in the country.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Ron Sumbang. I'm also with AAG. I'm the VP for Community. And I'm also the current chairman of the Adult Residential Care Providers of Nevada, also known as ECHO. We are the biggest organization of 10 beds and below. We have over 350 that we represent. And I have the board members right now. We have Dorothy, who is our president. Mirila Tino, the wife of our former chairman, who is now our treasurer. We have our executive VP, Faith Ramos, and my better half. Better half? I mean, it's regional defect in the Philippines. I'm sorry. Anyway, we're looking forward. We always believe in collaboration and partnership. As I mentioned, we are the biggest organization of care home providers, and we work closely with the state, especially with the Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services. So it's a giveaway. We work with a lot of mentally ill people, and maybe with that collaboration, we could address the issues that are, you know, facing with right now. Rest assured that we are 100% behind you, and we're looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Vicky.
Me?
Vicky Vegas.
Vicky
Say
Vegas.
something.
Yes. Oh, can I?
You're everywhere. Introduce Mark.
Okay. So,
all right, my name is Victoria Tambanting. I'm the photographer here, events photographer, left, right, and center. So what I'm saying is that they're asking me, how come you can take photos of, let's say, Republican, Independent, and everyone? I say that my camera is non-partisan. Okay? I shoot first before I ask questions. I think I shouldn't be a cop. Anyway, while you were talking, okay, I was back there, and I'm supposed to be like non-partisan. So I was saying, while listening to you, I kept liking what you were saying as time was going on. So I was formulating already what I was gonna say to put in Facebook with all the pictures endorsing you. Okay? We love you. We love the cops. But sometimes they give me me a speeding ticket. Okay, let me introduce Mark here. Mark, you say something if you're gonna endorse for sheriff. Yeah.
Hi, Sheriff.
Okay, that's advanced. Harry, please.
Thank you, Karen, for all the inputs and the sharing of vision. I very closely working with LVMPD and particularly Nick Parisi, because I'm going to answer you a small question. We have a program which is already created to take care of not only police officers on mental and behavioral, but also the community. That document is already on the table with the legal department of LVMPD to take a decision. Besides that, when Nick is talking about Tropicana Corridor, where we are working on a pilot program for a special segment of a community who are needing our assistance, helping so that law enforcement can control some different vertical which is criminally based. So we are working very all together with this law enforcement into various sectors. And I thank you all for coming over here to assist. And I, on the behalf of Las Vegas India Chamber of Commerce, which is completely a business chamber, as a chair, and Asian American group, we assure you that we are all there with you and will make you successful.
Can we have you started with dinner so everybody knows? This is Christine charity. Are this for everybody?
Yes. Feel free to take home if we don't have. I have more, so take as many as you need.
You work with
How are you doing? Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Nick Crosby with Marquis, Aurbach, Coffing. We're here at the Asian American Group event for Kevin McMahill, who's running for sheriff for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department here at beautiful Mint Bistro. Kevin, if you could, tell the folks a little bit about your history and why you're running for sheriff.
Yeah, I grew up in Colorado. I joined the Army in 1986, went overseas to Korea for 2 years, and then joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in 1990. I rose up all the way through the ranks to become the undersheriff, which has the day-to-day operations of Metro. I did that for the last 6 years, and I retired in December because at the time the sheriff was going to run for a third term, and then he came back to me in March and said he was going to run for governor and he wanted me to run for sheriff. And I didn't hesitate. I love this community. I know what good policing looks like, and that's why I'm working to become the next sheriff for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Excellent. And if you could just briefly, what are some of your goals you have if you are elected sheriff for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department?
Sure. Obviously, first and foremost, people care about the safety and security of their homes and their businesses. And while the time I was the undersheriff for 5 of the 6 years, we went down in all Part 1 crime, and so I know how to do that. I'm going to work to improve our homeland security. I'm going to work to take the community policing to a completely different level so that we recognize the humanity in one another, and we don't have some of the problems that we see in American policing here in Las Vegas. So we're going to continue to improve upon all the great work that Sheriff Lombardo and Sheriff Gillespie and Sheriff Young have done, all 3 of whom are supporting me for sheriff, and we're going to continue to make this a great place to live and work.
Awesome. We look forward to it. Can't wait to see you as our next sheriff for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Kevin, I'm Harry, and representing as a chair of the Las Vegas India Chamber of Commerce. What do you think about the community outreach program, what we need to do it? Because I believe we need a lot of community educational program to have a bridge between the cops and the community.
I mean, 100%, that's the real fundamental basics of what this community policing strategy is going to look like. And, there's no aspect of our community that can't benefit in that police-community relationship by us having meaningful, authentic relationships that are developed across a wide spectrum here in our valley. And so 100%. That's the foremost of my community policing strategy, is to make sure that we develop those relationships and we all get better because we all have relationship and we understand each other and we're not afraid to tell each other when things need to be improved upon.
Good. We wish you good luck, Kevin, and we'll make sure that our chamber as well as our Asian American group supports you for making success. Thank you.
Kevin.
Hi.
Yep, pleasure. As you know, as a representative of Asian American group, just wanted to say we totally support you 100%, and we're looking forward to see how you take over from Joe and what your plans are for the Asian American community.
Yeah, I mean, the Asian American Group's one of the finest organizations in this city, along with the Asian Chamber and a number of others. But I'll tell you 100% we're going to continue to develop this relationship between the police department and all aspects of our community and make sure that we continue to listen to one another so that we can improve our quality of life here in this valley as a whole for everybody.
Well, so you know, you have our 100% support behind you. We love Metro, and we look forward to seeing you as sheriff.
We love you too. Thank you, brother.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Get